Welcome to the Roundtable Podcast with me, your host, Michael Baum. Tune in as we have honest and genuine talks about everything real estate and so much more. Let's get to it. Happy to have James McKenna with me today.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
All right. So to get started, I always get the introduction going. Ask a simple question is, who is James McKenna?
Well, James McKenna is originally from Miramichi. I lived there till I was 10 years old. My father, as many of you know, was premier, and 1987 he won the premiership, and we moved to Fredericton. So I was 10 years old at that time. I lived in Fredericton until I was 17, and then ended up going to St. Francis Xavier University for 4 years. After that, I traveled for a little bit, landed in Toronto, and then eventually came back here and started running the business with my father.
What year was that?
That was 2004.
So it's been a while.
It's been over 20 years. Yeah, it seems like it's just flying by.
So you grew up in Miramichi and then you went to Fredericton. Is that where you went to FHS as your high school?
Correct. 93 to 95 at FHS, and ended up getting into football. Played there. We were a great team. As many people know, FHS was the biggest high school in the British Commonwealth. So we had 3,000 kids at that school. So we had very good sports teams. And on my grade 12 year, I think FHS had won the championship 7 years in a row, but in my grade 12 year, unfortunately, we lost the title to Harrison Trimble. So some of my Trimble friends still bring that up every time I see them. It's still a bit of a sore point. So I played rugby there as well, and I played house hockey, which I continue to play, and sometimes with you. So
yeah,
I really enjoy. Played last night.
So much fun to still play hockey. So you went to university. You said you went to St. FX. What did you take, and what was the plan when you were, I guess, 17, 18 years old? What were you thinking, that you wanted to run a cabinet shop? Or
Yeah, no, not really. I originally wanted to kind of follow in my father's footsteps and get into law. And in high school, they had a co-op where you would go and spend some time at a business that you're interested in. So I did that. I went to a law firm, and I spent a couple of weeks there and realized very quickly that it was the most boring thing that I've ever seen, and that I had no interest in law. So that quickly changed into, really marketing and sales was the thing that I was interested in. And I did that at St. FX. I got into marketing and got a degree from St. FX doing that. And that was my goal ultimately, is to do sales and marketing when I got out of university, which is what I did.
Once you graduated, you said you went to Toronto?
Yeah.
Right after?
Right after I graduated, me and a good friend of mine spent 6 months, and we traveled around Malaysia, Thailand, Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand. And then I ended up getting a job in natural gas marketing in Toronto. And that's where I settled for about 4 years.
Right downtown, or where were you living at the time?
I lived downtown in High Park with 5 friends, because that's all we could afford. And I worked out in Mississauga. So back then, this was in 2000, I believe. I think I was making $30,000 a year. So living in Toronto with a good job at that time was $30,000. So $15 an hour roughly. And
Wow.
I think I had more money in my bank account back then than I ever have. And as much fun. We had a great time living there. Like I said, 5 guys in a house together. We'd travel, we'd go to concerts, and we'd live up and really get to experience Toronto and what it offered. So we had a great time.
Without any responsibilities, or you're just going and
drinking cheap wine and cheap food, and we had a really good time. So.
Yeah, eating leftover pizza and
no responsibilities.
Away you go. So we're here at the beautiful Glenwood kitchen office in Shediac, New Brunswick. Just finished a tour here, and it was really mind-blowing. Guys have here, and it just blew my mind. How did you get started as now the CEO of Glenwood Kitchens? How did that come about, and where did you get going?
Kind of an interesting story. So I believe it was, my father, who was interested in business, received a plan to purchase Glenwood. So it was sent out to many people, and he was one of the people. He received it, and he actually had purchased a couple of kitchens from this company when he was at Fredericton, and then at his cottage in Capilea. So he knew the business and knew it well. And my brother was working in Calgary. He was in natural gas. And my sister was in Ottawa. She was in pharmaceutical sales. And I was in Toronto. So his goal was to purchase a family business and have all of the kids move back to New Brunswick, start and raise their families here. So
okay,
that's the original plan. Now, my brother was a successful natural gas trader, so he had no interest in moving back home. And my sister had a successful job in pharmaceuticals with AstraZeneca, and she had no interest. So once they said no, I said yes. And I don't think I would have said yes had they both decided to move back. I think it would have been too small to have 3 family members working in the same business. You know how family business is. It can be complicated. And I read a lot of business books that said that. So I did my best to avoid getting into a family business. So I was the only one that showed up.
Okay. Are you the oldest? Are you the youngest? Or how does that work?
I'm the youngest. My brother is 5 years older. My sister's 2 years older. So
Okay.
I'm born in 1977. I am the youngest.
Okay. Got the last straw.
I got the last straw, exactly. Yeah, and I'm very, very happy that I did say yes. It's been a wonderful experience.
It's been a good ride. And is your father, for most people would know who he is Frank McKenna, who was, like you said, the premier. Is he still involved in a company today, or?
So the interesting thing is he pretty much dropped me off at the front door and never came back, which is amazing. I mean, it was a large investment at that time for him and for me. And he completely trusted me in the process. And like I said, he's left me here with the former ownership group who stayed on to work. And he trusted that this was going to work out. And he really hasn't been involved since then. To the point where I think after 7 years, I had completely purchased him out and he hasn't been involved at all.
Okay, so now completely it's a
Yes.
100% your company.
Correct.
And how long did the previous owners, because I know the previous owners had a very, very good reputation in this small town, and which is just for people that don't know, that are listening from maybe further away, it's about 15 minutes outside of Moncton and Dieppe and the lobster capital of the world. When did you fully purchase them out, and what was the transition like? How was it to have partners at the beginning and deal with partners?
Yep, great question. So the Belleville family, Armand and Emil, 2 brothers, owned the business, and they had a bunch of their children working in the business. So we purchased it from them. Armand and Emil, who would have been in, I believe, their late 60s at that point, quickly exited the business, but their children stayed and worked with me. So Robert, who was my general manager at the time, Lisa, his sister, and Linda, his sister, and then their cousins, Renee, and also brother-in-law, Danielle, had all worked here, and some of them still work here. Robert, who was my GM, is still working here today, as well as Renee, and she does drafting. So after, 25 years, we still have a good relationship with them, and they were wonderful mentors for me.
That's amazing. So you feel like family. Yes, I know that family dynamics sometimes can be a little different or difficult, or sometimes easy, because you kind of know already what the other person will say or want to do. You having other people inside the business that have been here a long time, how do you value that for you and for your company to still have those roots and those people that had started this from, I believe, the ground up, right?
Yeah, they were.
And when did that start? When did they get going?
They had it about 25 years before I did. So
80s, late 70s?
Yeah.
Wow.
They would have been one of the first doing custom kitchens in the Atlantic Canada region. So absolutely. I mean, they are true entrepreneurs in the sense of the word. They basically started a small business. So they were originally buying kitchens from US, taking them off the train, building them. So they were RCA cabinets, building them in Shediac, and then delivering and installing in homes. And I think at one point the exchange had changed, and they realized that it would be more efficient if they started making cabinets on their own. So they started out very small. And then after 9 expansions, we are where we are today. So true entrepreneurs, I guess the benefit of buying from somebody like them who went through all the hardships and, got it to where it was at is huge. I don't think I could have done it. I'm not an entrepreneur like them. I'm not as a risk taker as they are. So unbelievable partnership. I'm glad we did it.
Yeah.
And trust. I had huge trust in them. And I think eventually they did with me as well. So it's worked out really well.
So in those early days, like before we get into some of our stuff, I'm curious at the early days of Glenwood Kitchen. So from what I had heard, like especially in the 80s and 90s, they would do a lot of these kitchen cabinetry in the New England states, these big homes and big custom cabinetry. And was that a big thing? And is it still today? Or
it's a great question. So the Acadian population has a great history in New England. A lot of Acadians at one point moved down to New England and got into the construction trade. And many of them became very successful in drywall, building houses, roofing, anything construction related. There's a ton of Acadians that are doing very, very well. The Belleville family is no exception. They went down and got into the cabinet business. One of their brothers ended up staying there and opened up a retail shop called Glenwood Kitchens USA. So he would order the kitchens from Canada, and they would get shipped down to the United States. And yes, they would go into big custom homes, and that went on for many, many years up until we bought the business. And I believe it was 2008 where there was a recession, and then the U.S. Market started to drop a little bit. We really focused on diversifying our market, so we added a lot more into the Canadian market. And at that point, Canadian became more than our U.S., and it's stayed that way ever since.
At the beginning, for a while, US was the big customer.
Yes, yeah, the U.S. they were buying huge amounts of cabinets, and they had big custom homes. So yes, they were high value product.
You have so from going around here, I've noticed you told me you had 120 employees, which is fascinating for a small company in a small town, but it's not a small company anymore.
Yeah.
You would be considered a big company. There's a lot of diversity into your workforce, into the people. How do you keep that corporate culture going when you have so much diversity? And maybe share where some of the people are from and how diverse your workforce is.
So originally, when I got involved, it was basically all local people working here. At that point, probably had 40% females working here, which is in our industry very strong. I think we're up to about 50% females right now, which is still very strong. But most of them were within a 15-minute radius of Shediac. And over time, we just had less and less people, local people, starting to come in looking for jobs. So we were having a hard time finding people to do the work and build our cabinets until immigration happened. And it really started with the local fish plants, where the fish factories would bring in immigrants and they have them work there until the immigrants became Canadian citizens. And at that point, I think they were looking for something a little bit different, maybe a little bit more stable environment. And that's where we would get new Canadians applying for jobs. Without them, we couldn't do what we do, especially during COVID when we had too much work. If we didn't have new Canadians, we would not be able to produce the cabinets that we do right now. So we have about 50% Filipinos, Brazilians, Indians, Ukrainians, Jamaicans, Mexicans. So big, diverse group of people. And we are respectful of everybody's, where they're from, the languages they speak. Current local employees really blend in well with them. They get along. They're all friends now. Sometimes they'll come over, someone will make a local dish from their country and share it around with the different employees. So it's a very diverse group, but everybody really gets along.
Oh, that's awesome. And that's fun to see. And yeah, you can definitely feel it just by walking around. Everybody was smiling at me and saying hi, and you can tell that everybody's happy to be here. So good for you on that. When you get into places and everybody's not very happy.
Yeah.
Found here that everybody seemed to be on the up and up. So good job on that.
Well, I had warned them to make sure that they put on a brave face. But and I guess I believe, work doesn't have to be stressful. It doesn't have to be fun. I often say that we're not brain surgeons here. We're not saving anybody's lives. Let's not get stressed out about things. So we try to really create a stress-free atmosphere. And, the guys that are running my production and my factory really work well with the guys. So try not to create any issues that they don't have to be stressed about, I guess.
So do you install cabinets? Do you make them, then you install them? How does your business work, and who do you sell it to?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a very simple business model. We are business to business wholesale cabinet manufacturer. So we have partnerships with kitchen retail stores throughout Atlantic Canada and Eastern US, and they meet with the customers. They design the kitchen, they measure the kitchen, they price out the kitchen, and then they use our software and send the kitchen file to us, and we then produce what they send to us. And 8 weeks later, we ship the kitchens out to them.
Wow, how is that? It seems to me like there could be a lot of hands, because you don't just do the same kitchen. It's custom made. It could be different things, different types, and sometimes when you get designers in there, and I can say that because my wife's an interior designer, but there's all kinds of different things. It seems that from their point of view, or what they're sending, the file they're sending to you, how do you manage the quality, and also making sure that what the customer really wanted is what you're producing in this 80,000 square foot space here?
Yeah, so we have a catalog that all of our retailers have access to. We also have a selection of colors, wood styles, and different door models. Generally, 80% of the time, they take what we offer them, and they use our software, fill out the software. So it's almost impossible to make mistakes once they fill it out in our software. They send it to us. We manually go through it. That's one thing that we really do is our drafters take a look at the drawings, make sure that they can try to catch any mistakes that our customers
Okay,
have
so
sent
you
to
do
us.
manually go through
We
it.
do,
Okay.
yeah. We absolutely double check our customers'
Okay.
work. We then send a confirmation for them to sign off with any questions. They sign off on it, and then it goes into production from there. Anything that's done custom is either drawn by hand or by CAD. Same process is sent to us. We then make sure that we can build what they're looking for, send back any questions, get them to sign off on it, and it goes in production that way. So that's really eliminated any chance of error. And then the quality check is done. We've got 8 different quality checks downstairs that our guys make sure that what we do is exactly what the customer wants. Now, we're in the wood business, so all wood is different. So there's times when we've had some quality issues, but we try to limit those as much as possible.
Your product actually in our home, proud to say that it's a Glenwood kitchen, and we're very happy with the end product. And I think every company you try to do as best as you can and finish is because it's not somebody else doing it. So you do have a place in the middle where somebody's kind of checking everybody else's work and making sure.
Absolutely. All the way through the process, we have people checking the cut list to make sure that everything was cut, so that when it goes to the next process, that everything's there for that department to complete the job.
Oh, that's cool. So we talked about U.S. in the early days, and not to get too political, but in this day and age, there's with all the tariff talk and everything else, how has the last few years changed your business for the U.S. if you are in the U.S. and if you're still there? How has that changed? And again, not to get political, it's just to ask on the tariff front.
Yeah, so most of our U.S. business is down the I-95 through New England. New England is obviously a very democratic area. So we are, I would say, like-minded people to the people in Atlantic Canada. We've got great, wonderful relationships with our retailers living in the U.S. However, what's happened over the last few months with the tariffs and with the president has created a strain on their business and our business. We were one of the only industries hit with, at one point, 50% tariff. That got reduced to 25% tariff. So everything that crosses the border right now is tariff 25%. So we, as a business, decided that we would take half that hit. So roughly 15% of the 50% of the 25% we are taking a hit on, and our customers paying the other portion. They were okay with that. They know that it's going to increase the price, obviously. They still think that they can be competitive with our product selling in the US. However, we've noticed that there has been a decline in sales from the US. So the issue right now is that before we used to have full transport truckloads going, and now the transport trucks seem to be smaller. So at some point, we're going to have to make a decision, say, how do we get these cabinets to our customer that's, efficiently and cost effective? So it's created major havoc for everybody in our industry. Lucky for us, like I said, we've been in this business for about 25 years, so we are very cost conscious. We watch where we spend our money. Have a brand new opulent facility or factory here, so we make do with what we have. There are companies that I know and that I've been through in Quebec that have spent $30-40 million on brand new robotic facilities that ship 80% of their product into the US. So they're just getting completely decimated. Luckily for us, the companies in Atlantic Canada that ship to the US are all still doing okay.
Yeah, that whole thing, to me, it's just mind-boggling that, I'm not a political guy at all, but you add something like, and to think that it's not going to be the end consumer paying more money for it is just mind-boggling, because you can only, sell cabinetry at 12.5%. I'm sure you're not making 100% margins on your product.
Definitely not.
So to take 12.5% of that margin, whatever it is, even if it's 20% or 30%, you're going there for 7, 8%, 5%. If everything goes perfectly, it's a big risk.
Yeah, so we're
hard to swallow.
We're just trying to hang on as long as we can, and hopefully a government will change their position on tariffs, or there'll be a government change. So whatever happens first, I personally believe that USMCA, is going to get renegotiated. I firmly believe that there's going to be a 10% flat tariff across the board on every product that goes to the US. So
Okay.
I think it's going to be hard times in the next little while for us.
Yeah. Well, then you have to change the way, but I mean, you don't seem to be too, you didn't go from 120 employees to 15 employees and seems to be quite busy back there. So still seems to be okay that at least your business is not hurting. Maybe some of your business, but it looks like maybe some of your Canadian business has increased because of that.
Yeah.
Which could be another, maybe a blessing in some other way.
Yeah. So we don't have any salespeople on the road. I do sales along with my general manager Andrew does the sales. We haven't been in sales mode before this happened in a very long time. During COVID, we had more work than we could handle. But since we got the tariff news, we went out and we started really trying to increase our sales locally. So as a result, we've picked up about 6 retailers in Atlantic Canada over the last year and a half.
Oh, congrats.
And that's helped us continue to keep our business where it's at and actually grow it. This will be our second biggest year probably in history of the company. Last year, the year before would have been the first biggest during COVID, but this will be number 2.
So needless to say, your business is booming without the lack of a better word. And you're increasing as you're going, and seems also going back there and seeing everything, like the technology seems to be up to par. You're saying it's not fully automated. From what I see back there, there's still quite a bit of investment into machinery and CNC machines and automatic spray booths. And so how has the technology has changed in your business, and what makes it better, or where do you see it going to in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I guess our business it's complicated. You can buy, I use the word IKEA cabinets, which are pretty basic kind of cabinets. So you could run a full factory now. They call them lights out factories, completely in the dark, run by robots. Machines take the sheets, they pull them into CNC machines, they cut, they drill them, they dowel them. And I've seen actually robots putting boxes together. So you can completely automate it, a factory start to finish. Now our product, because we are a custom wood manufacturer, it's not possible for us. There's too many different touch points of our product that have to be done that couldn't happen. But we're trying to do as much as we can with technology. And that's for 2 reasons. A, it's to become more productive, more efficient at what we do. But the other reason is we don't have the labor force that we've had in the past. So we can't find enough people to
Fill the job.
So we need to rely on technology. And, the government has done a great job, I believe, COA and Opportunities New Brunswick, of noticing that fact that companies don't need to generate more jobs. They need to be more efficient so that they can, buy more products and support local businesses and communities, and eventually grow the workforce that way. So
Okay.
I think that's what's happening.
Yeah. So to switch gears a little bit, you're a family man. You have a wife and kids. And how old are your kids and family life? What's your family life like?
Yeah, I guess I should have mentioned that about when you asked who's James McKenna. I should have probably said I'm married and have 2 children.
No, it's all good.
So I mentioned about moving back from Toronto, and one of the reasons I wanted to come back to New Brunswick is I didn't want to get stuck in Toronto. I didn't want to get into a relationship and then end up living there. So when the opportunity came back to New Brunswick, I took it. And within a month of me moving back here, I ended up meeting my wife, Renee, and we got married about, I guess, 4 years after that. And we've had 2 girls. So my 2 daughters would be 19 and 17. My oldest daughter has gone to the family alma mater, which is St. Francis Xavier, which everybody in my family, brothers, sisters, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, everybody has gone to X except for my wife, because she's a Canadian. She went to University of New Brunswick.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. That's a shout out to the St. FX right there. Your daughter's boyfriend.
And my daughter's boyfriend left UDM and went to St. FX.
Yeah.
And he loves it there.
Yeah. So your wife is from here?
Yeah, wife's from Capelé.
So in the summer, you have a place.
Yeah.
You live in, where do you live?
Yeah,
I guess
live downtown
not
Mountain.
specific street, but
No, we live downtown Mountain, and we love it. We live near the hospitals downtown, so quick, easy access for me to get to work. And we have a cottage, family cottage, a Capelé. So we've got about 8 family cottages all next door to each other. So my parents, myself, cousins, and aunts and uncles all live there. So it's wonderful. We've been there for, I'd say 78 years.
oh, wow. That's amazing. And how about your brother and sister? Do they have a place there as well? Or
Don't have a physical place. They each have cottages. My brother has a place in British Columbia in Invermere, beautiful place on the lake. And my sister has a place outside of Ottawa. But at least twice a year, we all get together. So we get together in the summertime, usually in Capelé. So the whole family, week or two. And then at Christmas, we generally travel together to go to a location and stay together.
okay.
So at least twice a year, we see each other.
Oh, that's great. Because your father lives in Toronto now.
Yeah, my father,
Or mother, your
yeah,
parents.
my
Sorry.
parents,
Say
yeah,
your mom.
they have a place in Toronto, so they spend a good bulk of their time there. They spend time in Hawaii for a couple of months during the winter. They just rented a place in Spain for the month, so they've been traveling there, and then they will spend the summer in Capelé.
So you guys get to see them, especially in the summertime, a little more. And so, how's your family dynamic? How is that with your brothers? Everybody gets along. Everybody's good there.
Yeah, no, we do get along. My brother is a very successful businessman. He just brought his company Rockpoint Energy through an IPO last couple of months. And is doing very well. And my sister works for AstraZeneca.
Still now.
Yeah, she's been with the same job for almost, I think, 30 years. So
That's rare in that industry.
Yeah, pharmaceutical. She does marketing for them and runs a team, and she's very successful. So we all get along great, and we're very similar personalities. Right.
That's great. And for your family, like your kids, do they play sports? What does a typical weekend look like at the McKenna household?
Yeah, probably very much similar to yours. My older daughter, like I said, is away, so we don't get to see her on a daily basis. But my younger daughter, Sophie, is involved with high school hockey. So that's busy. She's involved with club volleyball and also high school volleyball. So she's a busy kid. She works a job and has a great social life. So she's super busy, but she has her license and she has her own car. So she's at the point now where she comes and goes as she pleases. And Renee and I are just kind of looking at the next stage of her life saying, hey, there's nobody here anymore. What do you want to do? So
Yeah.
starting to try to go for walks and, do different things. She's got me into hot yoga, which is interesting. Not something I would advise people to try, but it's,
I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
it's kind of fun. I almost died this week, actually. So yeah, me being the only male in the class of 20 females, it was not one of the high points of my life.
So now what's next for you in the next years from now or 5 years from now? Like now that the kids are you guys traveling more? Are you kind of facing retirement? What's kind of the plan? Not to spill out any beans that's not to be spilled, but what's your thought process in the next 10 years?
Yeah. So, you and I have probably talked about this in the past, but I really am a firm believer personally. Success for me is freedom. It's not having a big house or a nice car. It's about being able to do what you want. My business now is structured in a way where I have a general manager that runs the day to day. I have a production manager that runs, the bulk of 80, 90 of the production employees. And I've got a maintenance manager that takes care of all of the machinery and things that break down. So I don't necessarily have to be here on a daily basis anymore. And I've, let my staff know that once my younger daughter goes to university, that I will probably be taking longer trips than I have in the past. So that's kind of that's the plan in the future, is just to be able to step away a little bit more and have this place run itself. And I'm completely confident with the people that we have here that it will.
Yeah. And right now, how much time would you spend here? Are you here every day or every couple of days, or what's
So typically I will come here every day in Shediac, and then I'll spend an hour or two at my Dieppe location. So I have another factory just next to the airport in Dieppe, where I've got 15 people working there and doing manufacturing. That runs itself as well.
So you bought a competitor at the time, and
during COVID, we had so much work coming in. I had a friendly conversation with a competitor, Gerard Maillet, and he was in his mid 60s. And I just, was flirting a little bit with him and said, hey, if you're ever looking to sell, give me a call. So 2 weeks later, he made the phone call and we started negotiations and I bought the business. He worked for me for a year And then he became one of my customers selling multi-units for us in the city until it became too big for him and he decided he wanted to retire again. So
Okay.
he's completely stepped away from the business.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to change gears again, in the early days, so my dad dropped me off and here I am today. It's as if everything just was smooth sailing
Yeah.
throughout the entire time. Just
Yeah.
a perfect company. You got dropped, always tons of money in the bank.
Yeah.
Everything was always perfect. And here you are today, next year when your daughter, or in a couple of months, your daughter's going to graduate and you're just going to go and take some of these long trips.
Yeah. No.
Pretty sure that's not the case.
No.
How were the early, and those are some of the things that I love talking about, is what are some of the early struggles you had or some of the latest struggles you've had, and not to go into detail, and to help young entrepreneurs that are thinking to never give up, because at a certain point you will go through messy times where my last podcast was, we called it the messy middle, where there's always like what you think is going to happen is totally something different. What would be some of the things that you would maybe tell your younger self to not sweat so much about it, but what would be also examples of struggles that were there in the beginning and maybe even lately?
Yeah, so very good point. It's not all roses and flowers. It definitely had some struggles along the way. Made major mistakes like every business owner has. Financially, obviously made some bad decisions, again, like most business owners have. So right off the bat, things I can think of is once we bought the business, I was in my early 20s, I'm English, and most of the employees here at that time were Acadian or French speaking. So I'm a young English kid coming in here to a manufacturing facility, trying to become the boss, without stepping on any toes. So that was a challenge right off the bat. Some of our key employees quit on us. They just didn't see the vision that I had or didn't believe in me. So we lost some very good people right off the bat. So that was a bit of a punch in the face along the way. I also, at one point when I was younger, was big into sales. So I wanted to increase our sales. Right now, I don't believe that. I think sales is vanity and profit is sanity. But in the past, I used to be very sales focused and I wouldn't go after the right kind of customer. So that got us into some trouble in the past. I've also had some customers that didn't pay their bills over the years. And again, because I was just blinded by sales focused, I'm not like that anymore. I don't care what our sales are. I do care what our profit is. So that's what we spend a lot of our time on. And, made some bad mistakes on purchasing machinery, some breakdowns, not having backups in plan, not having a backup on our employees. So if somebody, a key employee left and we didn't have plans, those are all mistakes that we've made. I am a firm believer now in processes. We run our operation off the EOS business model, which is Gino Wickman traction. So everybody on my leadership team, that is how we make decisions. So everybody's got a backup. We've got a backup plan for all of our machinery. And we've got an organization chart. We have a 3-year plan and a 10-year plan, and we go through it on a regular basis. So we have a team of people that have their eyes on the business, and that's really helped us eliminate some of these mistakes we've made in the past.
That's good. No, everybody that I talk to and every business owner and myself made some very big mistakes, and some that I would definitely not recommend anybody to make. And sometimes it's also blinding because when you're busy, sometimes you can just think that you're invincible and just kind of go in and do whatever. And then all of a sudden, when it slows down a little bit or something happens, like, oh man, geez, I didn't realize that there was a hole here in the boat or that or the other. So thanks for sharing that part of the journey. And so speaking of struggles, and talk that in the early days, you were an English guy coming into mainly French and Acadian business, especially here in Shediac area. How do you find it being because sometimes there can be some misconception of language in our area. I find for me, I know I'm French first, but you can go with both languages and just kind of coexist. How is it as an English guy and an English family? How do you find doing business here and living here?
So, being in Shediac it's a wonderful place to have a business. The community is warm and embracing of what we do here. We've got a lot of respect for the people that live in the town, a lot of the employees, and they do for us. So it's a great relationship. But the fact is, I am an English person working in a French community with a French environment. When I started, over 25 years ago, I was one of the only English primarily English speaking people in here. But as I was here over time, and my wife is French, I picked up French pretty quick. I went to late immersion, so I understood some French, but over time,
Not our French.
not so much the Shediac French. Over time, I got to a point where I could listen to a conversation 100%, know what was going on. So I don't necessarily feel comfortable speaking in French, but I can understand it. So I do have 5 or 10 employees downstairs who will speak to me in French, and I will respond to them in English, and that's the way our relationship goes. Over time, as we've brought on more new Canadians and immigrants, obviously we have to speak English as more of the predominant language in our company.
In the shop, yeah.
Yeah, but if there's a few employees that are very French and don't understand English, we make it a point to make sure that they know what's going on.
Well, that's interesting. And it's fun to hear that. And that's how I feel. And by talking to a lot of, let's say Moncton is not so much of it's not a big deal, or when you get more into the outskirts, but now it's changed so much that everybody's kind of coexisting and it's all
the way it should be. My kids were raised French. I'm very, very happy for that. My older one goes to an English university, completely bilingual, and I really think it's a benefit to them to have French first and have English as a second language. And I think it's going to help them with their future.
absolutely.
And for anybody to have 2 languages, with Spanish or whatever it is, it's a great thing to have.
Yeah. So for hobbies, what do you do for fun? You say play hockey, but what would be the ideal day for you if you had all the money in the world and you could do whatever you want? What would it be?
Yeah, I'm a very regiment person. I like doing pretty much the same thing every day. I'm up at 6:30. I go to the gym. I come to work by 8:15. I eat my breakfast at 10 o'clock. I go for lunch at 12:30. So that's my day involves pretty much the same thing every day on the weekdays. I do, like I said, I'm starting to do that hot stretching or hot yoga, hot exercise. So that's taking some time. I do play hockey 3 times a week. So really enjoy that. I also play a bit of pickleball now. So that
New craze.
Yeah, new craze. So I'm always kind of doing something. In terms of hobbies outside of work, would be, spending time with my family, ultimately going to the cottage. I love being outside doing yard work. I'm a tinkerer. I love trying to putt around and fix things.
Are you handy?
I am not handy. My wife would say I'm not handy. I'm handy enough to know what the problem is and to find somebody to fix it.
Okay.
But I could probably get into some trouble. So I love being outside, doing anything outdoors around our properties. And yeah, that's how I spend most of my time.
Play golf?
I didn't mention golf. I love golf. So I got about 30, 35 rounds in last year. And I plan on getting more this year. I really, really love the game. I'm not very good, but I plan on getting better.
It's a sport you don't have to be good to enjoy. Like, it gets frustrating, but at least for 4 or 5 hours, you're outside and you're talking to friends and having fun. It's just one of those sports I find hockey is a bit different that way. It's like you have to make sure that you play with the same skill level. If not, it's really not fun. Yep. Golf, you can play with a scratch handicapper or like somebody that can't hit the ball, and it's still enjoyable because you do your own thing.
I've gotten away from tournaments. I find tournaments can be too long and too drawn out. I do enjoy golfing with friends. You go out, have a couple of beers on a sunny day. I'm a fair weather golfer. I won't golf if it's cold, if it's raining. It has to be the right conditions with the right people, or else I won't do it. But I really, really do enjoy it.
We'll have to invite you at Fox Rig this year and play around for
Absolutely.
sure.
It's a beautiful course.
Yeah. I guess for the final question I will ask is there anything that I didn't ask that you'd like just mention if I didn't ask the question?
No, I mean, I've talked to you about, we've got a mentorship program that myself and some friends have started. James Green started a group called the Buildership Mentor. Like you, we really want to encourage young people to get into business, whether it's start your business or buy a business. Personally, I'm a person, I don't think I could start a business. Like I said, I'm too risk adverse, but, helping young people get into business, find mentors is extremely important. So I think that's something that anybody that's looking to do that should find a mentor. And the charity that we started called Build Up exactly does that. So please look it up.
So that leads me to one more question is, are you involved in charities? How do you give back to your community? Is there any way you give back? It doesn't have to be monetary. Is there things that Glenwood does, or that you, Jamie McKenna and Renee and your family, is there something that's near and dear to your heart that you are doing now, or maybe you want to do more in the future?
Yeah, no, we definitely want to give back to the community. I don't believe in always giving to the same organization. Donate. We try to spread it around. There's wonderful groups in the community. The STEM is one of them, and many other really good charities. The system is one that we've done in the past that we really like. Good Way, that's another great one in the community. That a bunch of construction companies are raising money for.
Yep.
As well as the hospice in Moncton, great organization. Personally, I'm working with the YMCA. I'm helping them out right now. I'm also on the committee that's helping raise funds for the Canada Games in Moncton. So we're looking at sponsorship for that. So that's in 2029. So we're starting early, and that's how I'm spending my time.
Oh, that's great. No, it's always good to give back, and thanks for on behalf of everyone else, what you guys do and what you give. So it goes a long way when business owners help and support other local charities. So, well, Jamie, I appreciate your time. Where can people find you? Like online?
Yep.
Are you on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or even your companies, their tags that?
Sure. Yeah. Companies, obviously, Glenwood Kitchens on Facebook and Instagram, website, obviously. And I'm on LinkedIn under James McKenna, and you can reach it anytime. Happy to meet more people.
Yeah, we'll try to get more people to hook up and join you. So we really do appreciate your time. It was great insight. It's always fun to talk to local entrepreneurs. So to everyone, don't forget to like or subscribe to our podcast. You can always find us on all the podcast platforms, or you can go directly on my website at encoreproperties.ca, hit the podcast tab, and you'll see this one and all other podcasts as well. So Jamie, again, you're a great friend, good person, and appreciate your time. Jamie, thank you.
Thank you.